Okay, so today I'm talking about leadership in the different forms it takes within myself and on a global scale. I've struggled with the concept of leadership because for me it's traditionally been equated with power. What I used to see leadership as was the people who are most willing to assume a role of power over other people or tell other people what to do. I really didn't like when people assumed that role, and I never liked taking roles of leadership myself. I didn't have the confidence to feel justified in taking charge of other people, especially within this system of negative leadership. I think a lot of inequalities in the world come from differences in power. In society today, people who are born with certain privileges have more power. For example, someone born a white male like myself will have more opportunities and less structural challenges to face. Them more power than people who aren't born with those privileges. A big reason inequalities like racism and sexism are perpetuated is because people who have privileges are unwilling to step away from the power given to them by society. My goal and my struggle within leadership is to not use those powers in a way that diminishes other people. Throughout the trip, I became more confident and began to assume more leadership positions. This has led me on a path of exploring alternative leadership styles on a personal, interpersonal, community, and global scale. The first area of growth I've been pursuing is personal leadership. I see personal leadership as the ability to always learn and grow within myself. That includes self-love, perseverance, being honest with yourself and others, forgiveness of your previous mistakes, and always challenging your own assumptions about the world. In terms of honesty, I think I've become a lot more able to express how I feel towards other people. Before the trip, I found it difficult to express my emotions to others because I was uncomfortable being vulnerable. Stressful situations This helped me become more vulnerable in two ways. First, it was an opportunity for me to use my fellow students as a support system. And doing that required me to open up about my feelings. Second, the fact that I was conquering new and often very challenging situations every day boosted my confidence. As a result, I was more confident in being vulnerable. I didn't used to think the ability to express myself to others was important because I thought openness with myself was good enough. I now realize that if I'm not able to articulate how I feel towards others, I'm not truly practicing honesty with myself. This is an important skill in leadership because being open with yourself allows you to see the intentionality behind your leadership. It also makes you willing to take others' criticisms in stride so you can help yourself and others learn and grow. Working on leadership in myself got me thinking about leadership within other people. I think leadership involves standing up for what you believe in and being assertive. That is something I really struggle with. During TBB, I have made some progress in this area. During seminars and group decisions, I'm usually able to confidently say my ideas, even if they contradict someone else's. At a point on the trip, I disagreed with the way one of my best friends was treating another individual. I had intended to have a conversation with him about why his actions were disrespectful and hurtful. I could never get myself to do it. My inability to be direct with him caused feelings of frustration within myself and him to fester. Relationship hurt because of it. I learned from this situation it's very important to be able to stand up for my beliefs. I can't do this if I'm not able to overcome my aversion to conflict. To be honest, I'm still not sure right now what steps I will be able to take to do this, but I know it's something I really want to work on. In Ecuador, during our education unit, I thought a lot about my role as a student in a learning community. In seminars, we explored the idea of the student-teacher power dynamic and whether it should become more equalized. I had the opportunity to plan and co-teach a seminar. During the actual teaching of the seminar, I realized that I was very uncomfortable with telling people what to do. I initially went to this approach because this is what I had seen in my experience with teachers at school. I was much more comfortable when I was leading by asking people questions and helping them challenge their assumptions in seminar. Reflecting on this showed me that I value teaching by challenging students to ask tough questions about what they are learning rather than dictating out what they should learn and know. After my opportunity to co-teach, we began reading an author named Bell Hooks. One of her ideas she talks a lot about is something called an equal opportunity learning environment. This is kind of a learning style where everyone gets to talk, they collaborate and grow and build off each other's ideas. The teacher acts as a facilitator. This system works really well for students to continue pushing their learning. One challenge with it, however, is in that discussion-based environments, white males, aka those with the most privilege. Two more things furthered my thinking. First, I discussed with my PO Patrick how we could make TBB more like an equal opportunity learning space. Second, I was called out during a seminar for talking a lot. These experiences led me to think about how it can be more intentional in seminars. In seminar, I wanted to make sure that I was furthering the group discussion and helping everyone learn, not just backing up one point. I believe listening is an equally valid way to learn. My intentions behind this are to step away from the power given to me by my privilege and allow room for others, which creates an environment where myself and others can learn best. I think this has huge implications on the global scale. Right now, powerful development agencies like the IMF, World Bank, and UN are all run by Western countries. The West exerts a large influence over smaller nations and communities. It does this through aid contingencies, diplomacy, economic domination by Western corporations, and the exportation of Western media. Right now, with large Western-run aid programs, small communities have very little voice over the changes that are affecting them. As a result, Western development efforts often fail because the strengths and needs of the communities aren't understood by developers. Why is this important? In the 21st century, we are facing the challenges of rapid globalization, climate change, and the effort to continue the positive development of the world. Right now, we are facing these challenges under Western-dominated leadership, and it's not working. Billions of dollars are wasted on ineffective aid programs, cultures and languages are becoming westernized, and CO2 levels in the atmosphere continue to rise unchecked. If the West were to step away from their power, it would allow the space for smaller nations and communities to give their voice. A large variety of voices will reveal new and diverse ideas. Change might not happen faster, but it will be more positive and inclusive. In order to be a positive agent of change in the world, you have to start with yourself. Practicing self-development and emotional honesty will create better relationships. Positive relationships will help create collaborative and equal communities. Inclusive communities can be a model for intentional global change. Finally, a world where communities large and small have a chance to participate in the human discussion creates a world where change can be effected in a positive and sustainable way. Thank you.
Any questions for Ben?
Isabel.
How do you plan to take your newfound leadership skills or your new way of thinking about leadership and apply it to home? Because you talked a lot about seminar and being more direct, but how does that work when you're not forced in a group of 12 or in a collaborative seminar?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that because I think a lot of the changes I've made was because I've been in such a supportive environment, and I think just realizing that even if at school or at home life or with my friends, even if everyone isn't supportive all the time, I'm really doing this for myself, and I think it's a change that makes me feel better and is able to show what I want to show to other people. So, Johnny,
Can you talk about the most important things that you learned about the personal leadership?
Mm-hmm. Oh, can you? Or,
Can you?
Okay. I thought you said you. Okay. I think for personal leadership, in order to challenge other people and their ideas, you really have to understand them in yourself. And for me to do that, I think it's honesty with myself. So understanding like why I do the things or why I think the things. Like it's more easy with academics because I can like understand my position on this, so I can like help other people understand their position on it or challenge their position on it. It's a lot more hard with like more personal things, like why I feel a certain way about someone's actions or my actions. Really, first I have to figure out why I think those things myself. And I think if you really practice that within yourself, like it's creates a much more like valid place for you to challenge. And
Do you have a specific like seminar or cool mind that had a big impact on you that like stands out among the rest?
In terms of this topic, I think when it was specifically in the education unit, like we were talking about opportunities and equal opportunities, and then I think it was you, Johnny. I was talking a lot during the seminar, and I was thinking like how do I affect other people around me within this academic space? And then like I springboard off this. I not only began to think about like my privileges, but I also expressing myself towards other people. Yeah. Peter?
Were there any examples of alternative leadership styles that you observed in any of the communities that we were in that really impacted you or that you noticed that influenced this at all?
Yeah. I also go to this example because I thought it was really cool. But in Ghana, when we watched this guy basically like had an after-school program or at night where he took a bunch of kids in this community and they all watched like the news together, like CNN or like I think we were watching BBC that night, and he was like, we watched it and then he like began to ask them questions, and it wasn't lecture based at all, and I thought that was like a very cool way to lead, and like they were challenging themselves in ways that I felt like reflected TBB that I'd never seen in formal education. Yeah. Patrick?
So to continue that conversation, what do you now think of the dynamic and power between teachers and students? If not equal, what do you think it should look like?
I definitely don't think equal is the right word. At first I was like, oh, of course they should be equal at the beginning of that. But I think using teacher often in school it was used as like, I am telling you what to do, like where you're still learning, but I'm telling you how you are going to learn, it to kind of challenge themselves to learn, because I think the best learning comes from yourself. It can't be told to you. You have to find it. And I think teachers are one of the best tools to help people find learning within themselves.
So would you say that teaching, to be a good teacher, you should be a good facilitator then instead of actual teaching?
Yeah, I would say so. I think lessons that can be taught, but I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned instead. I think like teaching is very difficult because there's so many different dynamics within like class, race, and different kinds of powers within a classroom. And so both understanding that and understanding individual students and how they can learn best is, I think, really the best way to lead.
You made a point about this corporate development where most of the development organizations, the policy that is set, but Western organizations who may not understand how things are going. So, were there some personal experiences that you had that kind of reinforce that point? Think you saw the trip?
Yeah, absolutely. In Ghana, I did a project on malaria, and often even I thought before the trip, like the best way to treat malaria was like send more bug nets, like give more money to public health systems. But I learned a lot. Like I knew nothing about it before. I thought I knew something about it, and even a lot of the developers have never been to Ghana. They've never been to malaria affected areas. So talking to locals about their experiences with the disease, I learned there was so much more cultural, so much more culture in society tied with that disease, which I kind of saw as like a physical or scientific problem. Like people didn't want to use their bug nets for so many different reasons. They didn't really understand the disease in the same way I did. They understand it in a different cultural way. So I think come from local cultures and they don't come from outside influences like dictating how to do it. Yeah. Michael.
And how do you, you talked about having leadership, your own personal journey towards becoming a leader and that you're more open to that. And then you also talked about the privilege you have as a white male, and that maybe that we want to give opportunities to the leadership to people who are not the white male. How do you get to, how do you deal with that conflict? To be you want to be a leader, but yet you come from this privileged situation.
Yeah, I think that's really where I started in Ecuador, like questioning myself and thinking about this like really in depth. I think like because I was born with a lot of privileges, I a lot of power, and that can be easily abused, especially like in a classroom setting where males or white males talking. I think I can kind of change that power where instead of just like, this is something I really want to pursue. Like in seminars a lot, I'd be like, all right, I have an idea, like let's talk about this idea. But I think finding in myself, like, how can I ask a question, or how can I like listen intently to someone to help maybe grow other ideas that aren't often as heard and can really like help me gain new perspectives and like help the group learn as a whole. And I think that's a form of leadership.
So then the dominant culture, whether it's politics, economics, or corporations, I mean everything, schools, like education, has the top-down view of leadership. And it's, I mean, what you're talking about is transformational. It's a different approach to leadership. Are there role models you've seen from sort of well-known people that you think that have those qualities that you're thinking that might be one that you admire?
Yeah, I would say my PLs is where I really saw this. Looking for alternate methods to lead, I think I really landed at how they lead and like kind of push us to grow both in seminars and definitely outside of that space. I think they do not really like use their power as the leaders of their program to like force us to do things, but I've really learned a lot by them guiding me and asking tough questions, and I think that's probably the best example I can give that I've seen.
How do you think going forward in your academic journey, wherever you go, or in the workplace, you'll navigate your newfound relationship?
I don't know. No, like, I don't know, meaning like, that was my pause and then I'm gonna try to answer it. Yeah, I think I've become a lot more confident than I was at the start. I want to work on that confidence and like make sure I use it in college. I think I definitely like have a very different perspective than a lot of different college freshmen because I've like seen all these different things. I want to use that in school, not to be like, oh, like this is like so much better, like I know these things and you don't, but to like maybe challenge some of the long held beliefs that I had that I like broke and like, yeah. Or, yeah.
Do you have any questions of yourself today that you can articulate?
Yeah. I'm still thinking a lot about privilege and whether like at all mean like me being more vocal than other people is good because I'm like a white male. I'm still thinking a lot about how I can articulate myself well to other people and how I can be confident in doing that. So I just have the most questions about global development. So I don't know. Johnny.
We had the opportunity to meet a lot of amazing leaders, and they had different leadership strategies. Do you mind talking about one of your favorite leaders with us and why? Who you personally met or person you read about?
Yeah. In Dongjeong, Pa Anan, he, like, when we were living in Dongjeong, it was a like organic, like very community-based village, and like maybe 5 years before, it was not. I think half of the village still used a lot of chemicals in their farming. It was negative for their health. Like a bunch of people were leaving the village, and so I really liked how he community leadership. He brought people together, and he used the knowledge he learned and like spread it out to other members of the community. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.